Hello everyone, this is Chris. Yes, as you can tell, it is 3:06 in the morning. I don't know why I'm up, don't ask. But anyways, this is very, very important. It says, EU Army new security strategy says bloc should go beyond NATO. Yes. Now, I'm just going to say it. Illuminati confirmed. Because I think this is a bit weird. Go beyond NATO. What is this suggesting? The new world order, like one government. I think the UN will support. It says the EU should develop military autonomy from NATO and a stronger role on a global stage, as it must be able to repel, to respond and to protect. A new EU security strategy says encouraging closer military cooperation within the Union. The EU can no longer rely on NATO on various security issues and must instead develop an ability to act autonomously if and when necessary. A document named European Union Global Strategy says, as it outlines new foreign policy and security proposals for the EU. Have you seen how crazy that is? That is absolutely crazy. Jeez, what the hell are we living? The world that we're living in is absolutely bizarre. Alright. The EU foreign policy chief says, as Europeans, we must take greater responsibility for our security. We must be ready and able to deter, respond to, and protect ourselves against external threats. Whilst NATO exists to defend its members, most of which are European, from external attacks. External attack, Europeans must be better equipped, trained, and organised to contribute decisively to such collective efforts, as well as to act autonomously if and when necessary it acts. The document presented to the EU leaders at the European Council meeting on the June 28th also sets ambitious goals for the Union in the face of new external security challenges, and that, according to the paper, range from so-called Russian aggression and Ukrainian crisis on the eastern borders of the bloc to terrorism and social and political turmoil in the Middle East and Africa. An appropriate level of ambition and strategic autonomy is important for Europe's ability to foster peace and safeguard security within and beyond its borders, it says. A fragile world calls for a more confident and responsible European Union, and it calls for an outward and forward-looking European foreign and security policy. The document emphasises admitting at the same time that the Union itself faces an existential crisis. Yeah, the European Union is under a lot of threats, like Brexit and other members pulling out. Our Union is under threat. Our European project, which has brought unprecedented peace, prosperity and democracy. Yeah, it is being questioned. It reads, just so you know, democracy in European Union is just not as good as a country that would be out the EU, okay? The country that's outside of the EU would probably experience more democracy and more power and more freedom for the people. Because, European Union is appointed, they appoint commissioners and presidents. We do not elect them. I just don't agree with it at all. A more credible European defence is essential also for the sake of healthy transatlantic partnership with the United States. Weird. Now this is weird. The document also states the US now subsidizes European defence by vastly outspending all the NATO members and paying about 75% of the bloc's spending. Whoa. In the meantime, the paper also actively encourages European countries to increase their defence spending and create a strong defence industry that would become a basis of the Union's future military autonomy. Investment in security and defence is a matter of urgency. It states stressing that defence cooperation must become the norm. And now while we talk about the terrorism on the rise and these proxy wars that the United States create just so they can have a reason to be in the Middle East. And now they're giving us trying to give them reason, give the European Union a reason and justify them to have an EU army. Yeah, the European Union is heading towards basically a totalitarian superstate. Like, there's no borders, free movement of people. It's going to be one big state in Europe. That's what they want. It is obvious, but just by reading this and other documents and other articles that I've seen online and watched so many videos on it that other news media outlets post, it's like, whoa, what's going on here? Stop right now. Because they're gonna get so big, and if, let's say, Brexit was overturned, we wouldn't have much freedom. It'll be harder for us to kick out the responsible, and we cannot kick out the European officials. We cannot hold them to account. We cannot hold them to account, basically. This is why we should not be in the European Union. We can hold our own government to account, but we cannot hold the European officials to account. Which is quite disturbing, actually. They could get away with pretty much everything. In the meantime, the paper also actively encouraged European countries to increase blah 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 blah. Okay, this is where we're up to. EU should systematically encourage defence corporations to strive and create a solid European defence industry, which is critical for Europe's autonomy of decision and action. The paper is stressing the member states must channel a percent of defence budget spending devoted to the procurement of equipment and research and technology, if they want to be able to cope with external threats. Depends what you mean by external. Meaning by the people that are opposing to your maybe far right or to far left policies. It's really going to become anti-democratic, more towards a nanny state or maybe a military dictatorship. The paper doesn't explicitly mention the creation of an EU army that would require a change to the European Constitution and international treaties, but it actively calls for removing all barriers that could hamper the Union's military capabilities. We must develop the capacity for rapid response, also by tackling the procedural, financial and political obstacles which prevent the deployment of the battle groups, hamper force generation and reduce the effectiveness of military operations. By tackling, what does it mean by tackling the procedural, financial and political obstacles? I wonder what that would be. Would that be the democracy that we have and it's too much freedom? And you're trying to say, well, too much freedom actually causes less security for our nation? I don't know. At the same time, the work on the document was also kept secret, as the UK was preparing to hold a referendum on its EU membership. It fears it could affect the outcome and shift the balance in favour of the Leave campaign, because the UK previously opposed creating an EU army. And you know what? I voted Leave, and I'm very glad that we are leaving. But something tells me that they will overturn it and reverse it, because they're not legally obliged to, do this, follow up on this outcome and actually stick with it. But it would seem as anti-democratic. They have a duty to carry out the will of the people, and if they don't do that, then they're just dickheads. Okay. Meanwhile, EU officials repeatedly voiced the idea of funding the Union's own armed forces. On June 26th, the head of the European Parliament's Committee on Foreign Affairs, Elmar Brok, said that the EU needs a common military headquarters that could pave the way for a united EU armed force, which would make the bloc's policy much more effective and strengthen its role in the world. In 2015, the EU Commissioner President Jean-Claude Juncker called for the creation of a united European army, which he said would be aimed at deterring Russia and strengthening the alliance. That's quite scary. They're preparing for a war, potential war by Russia, because Russia is provocative towards Ukraine and other countries. This is quite scary, to be honest. With its own army, EU would be able to protect peace in a member state or in a neighbouring state, he said at that time. In the meantime, a Pew poll has shown Europeans are weary of hard power and are reluctant to boost defence spending despite the commitment to do so by the governments. I say leave while you can. Get a referendum. Vote Leave. I'm calling France. I'm calling Italy. Germany, dare I ask. All countries to leave, because what they're proposing, and if they have their way, it's gonna get ugly. And you will be losing your freedoms, your rights, all for the name of security. It's not right. Really isn't. Anyways, I thought I'd just report that and let you guys know. Take care, stay safe, and remember, you are better and stronger than these globalist elites. Please subscribe.